theory, I don't need this on it. Checking audio in case this is actually going through. I don't know yet. I will check that in a moment. Just need to set those down. I figured I had an idea to try streaming. I had an idea that could work for streaming. I figured, what the hell, why not give it a try? Oh wow, it actually is. It's all working. Huh. That's really neat. I wasn't sure if that would. Cool. All right. So I guess do some background. Do I need to introduce myself? I don't really know. It's kind of weird. I guess I should. I'm Jim. This is my microphone. I normally have it pushed back, but right now I have it a bit closer. Because when doing a live stream, I don't have the benefit of my scripts that clean up the audio and also boost it. But I do have something set up that should help with the quality. Excuse me. I really doubt anyone is ever going to view this. And I'm okay. Wait, what? Actually, it says somebody is. We're on Rumble. Wow. Okay, cool. But yeah, so I'm just stumbling over everything I know. As I said, my name is Jim. The channel names is The Fiction Method, both on YouTube and on Rumble. I'm actually using Rumble Studio here because why not? No, hang on. Can I change that? I want to see if I can remove the underscores. I've not really streamed before, certainly not like this. It's been years since I actually did any streaming. That would have been like a video game stuff. And I said it was many years ago. I myself not really trusting my internet, but I've not been having any problems of late with with like Zoom calls and such, and also I have been on a few streams, which will bring me to this. So Graham Nolan's channel on YouTube, and he also does have it on Rumble. They've been doing for a while. They call it the Landing Party, where they've been going through episodes of the original series, Star Trek. This is for Star Trek the Animated Series. I'll explain shortly. They've been going through it in production order. But they decided that once they finished that, they were going to move on to, well, once they finished with the original cast series and then the original cast movies, so that's Star Trek's 1 through 6, that they would move on. And that was, in fact, this past week, where they had me on because they voluntold me, one of them anyway, to do trivia for them. Let's just say I had fun. And I think it was a good stream, but maybe that's just me. In any case, I figured they don't want to continue with Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I have them all over there. Why not start watching through them and try to continue? I'll be doing it alone. I doubt anyone's going to watch. That's okay. I don't mind that. And it's also the whole, I got an idea and I got the technology to do it. Because I've already been doing plenty of videos that I pre-record on the Fiction Method channel over on YouTube, not on Rumble. I can explain that a little bit. But I've been doing plenty of that stuff where a lot of it is what I call assigned reading videos, where I'm going chapter by chapter through a book, giving analysis. Why not try to apply that formula to television series in this case, and see how that goes? But why not do it as a stream instead of pre-recorded? I had no reason why not, so I figured, alright, I might as well do it and just do it poorly. So they didn't want to continue on with Star Trek, which most people would just skip over the animated series. It's easy to forget. It's only 22 episodes long, and it's a bit odd being, well, animated, unlike everything else that was live action. And, well, I have it. I've never actually watched it, so it's a good place to start. Plus, 22 episodes long. If I find that I can't actually do these streams for whatever reason, I only have to go 20 through 22 episodes before I can decide to stop. Seems like a good way to, test the waters. Anyway, I'll also quickly explain, because I did kind of tease it, why do I not have the videos over on Rumble? They're just on YouTube, because I started the channel on YouTube. I only made the Rumble channel basically to reserve it in case YouTube was ever like, hey, we don't want your videos here. Because when one of them happened to be a biography of a British POW in Germany who spent a night in the death camp portion of Auschwitz, you start having to talk about things that YouTube doesn't always like. Fortunately, they actually had no issue with those videos, so haven't had the need. But it's like, hey, I still got the Rumble channel. They got this Rumble Studio thing. Why not give it a try? And that way I have, the fallback if needed. Do I have anything more of useless information to say before getting to talking about the animated series? I don't think so. Although I should clarify this. Just like the landing party over on Graham Nolan's channel was going through in production order, I figured, you know what, might as well carry on here. Which for the animated series is weird. For the other series, not so much. I mean, there are some where they jump around in TNG and such, but for the most part, those seem to follow the order they were aired in. Not with the animated series. Excuse me. The first episode produced was actually More Tribbles, More Troubles. Which, when you think about it, actually makes perfect sense. But let me just, before explaining with that, the first episode to air, Beyond the Farthest Star, was actually the fourth episode produced. So, yeah, I've got a table with all this information. So, as I was saying, having the animated series start with More Tribbles, More Troubles makes perfect sense because, and by the way, I've not looked anything up. This is just my own opinion on it. It makes perfect sense because Star Trek was already a family-friendly show, so adults and children could watch together, no real problem. The animated series you would expect would tend more towards children. The trouble with Tribbles is a season 2 episode, as I recall, and is one that it does have the action and intrigue and such to attract an adult, certainly, and plenty of adults do enjoy it and still do enjoy it. But it's certainly one that would stick with kids, because the whole premise to it, the original series episode, is the Enterprise has been summoned to a space station that is currently holding a bunch of Quattrotriticale, a special kind of wheat, a special kind of grain, that is destined for a planet called Sherman's Planet that is kind of in a border dispute. Both the Federation and Klingon Empire have claims on the planet, and basically what's going on now is that if the Federation can produce a successful colony there, they will have a stronger claim. The Klingons obviously want to disrupt this so they can then claim the planet. And the space station holds all this stuff. Well, two things end up happening at the same time there. One is there is a Klingon ship that does visit it, and they're not going to engage overtly, but it does raise tensions. In fact, the head of the space station summoned the Enterprise specifically because there were Klingons just nearby, and he's very anxious. The other is the arrival of Cyrano Jones. Now, the Klingons, I'm not sure if it's actually supposed to be the same Klingons. I didn't check on that. But Cyrano Jones actually does return for this episode of More Tribbles, More Troubles. So you have a lot of characters being reprised when, again, you have the concern of Quattrotriticale, although they pronounce it differently. How were they pronouncing it in the episode? Sorry, I watched it earlier today, but it was earlier today. It was a while ago. I don't know why they would change the pronunciation. That was like Quattrotriticale instead of Quattrotriticale. No idea why. But whereas before it, a lot of the action is taking place just on the space station, which makes sense. You have these sets that are already built for the Enterprise. You just put people in them, they act. It works. Animated series, though, you have far greater freedom. Much greater. So we have not only the Enterprise, we have a Federation Scout-class vessel, which looks like it's a shuttlecraft, but it has nacelles on it, seemingly for warp, and also a deflector dish on the front. So, very much... Hang on. It's hard to see in the image here, but my hand doesn't go there. Hey, I could fix that, though. There is actually a dish, pale bowl dish, right there on the Enterprise. You also see a small one of those there. So you see that ship, which, to build that model, would have been probably more expensive than getting ours to paint in the cells. You have two robot ships, Federation robot ships, that are actually bringing the grain, bringing the Quattrotriticale that the Enterprise is escorting to Sherman's Planet again. And then you do have the Klingon cruiser, which same model is, well, it is animated, it's just painted, but it is same design as what we saw in the original series. but still, it's like we've got more ships here. We also now have Sulu is still on the left side of the console in the front of the bridge, but now sitting to his right, we don't have Chekhov. We have an alien, which is not one of the ones pictured here. He has multiple arms, including one that sticks out the front of his chest. I'm not sure when the cat-like woman, hang on, this one, I'm not sure when she appears. But I think that that's supposed to be the same species that if you were to go back and look at the assigned reading videos that I did for Star Trek III, The Search for Spock novelization, there is mention of a feline species that I wonder if it's the same. I'm not sure. Maybe when we get to actually meet her, it'll line up. It's in the novelization, speaks about her species being very ancient as far as exploring the galaxy, and are very good navigators, but are very secretive and never built colonies. It was a very odd description. But in any case, I wonder if same species. But yeah, and this is what I was getting to, but I ramble. Is that this is one of the advantages, when you think about it, for the animated series versus any live action, certainly of its day, which is that you're only limited by what you can draw with a pen or marker or paintbrush. You don't have to worry about, oh, how can we rig up the special effects or things like that. Now today, obviously, we have computer-generated graphics, not really a thing back then. And even still, I mean, when you think about it, having a completely CG environment would work very well today for CG, but even then, we still like having a lot of live action. But I'm getting off topic. Makes perfect sense for them to do that with Star Trek because it'll allow the imagination of it to be further explored by having like aliens more than just Spock serving on the Enterprise. And you can show them doing other things, different things. All right. Yes. So, okay, I gave the setup. Now let's actually get into what happens in the episode. And I like it. I really do like this episode. It makes perfect sense to start off. And I do think it's a pretty, well, production-wise, I do think it's also a pretty strong start. So the Klingons are after the scout ship that we later find out has Cyrano Jones on there, who he's, nuisance, I think is how Kirk describes him. And he is very much a nuisance. But the Klingons are after him, and this is certainly a problem. And the Enterprise is like, well, they're in Federation space, that's the Federation shuttlecraft, we have to do something. So they lock on to beam him aboard. It takes a while for him to actually materialize on the transporter pad, and the scout ship ends up being destroyed. The Klingons know, though, that the Enterprise has rescued him, even though he hasn't materialized yet, and so decides to attack. But they attack in a different way than they have previously. It was set up a little bit before this. This is all like in the very beginning of the episode. That the Federation is aware that the Klingons have developed some new kind of weapon, though they don't know what it is. They don't know what the nature of it is. Well, they find out because the Klingons use it on the Enterprise. It is a, I know I wrote it in here, projected stasis field. So the idea is you basically, from the Klingon ship, it just fires out this beam that when a ship is caught in it, it disables almost all the technology. They have no engines, they have no weapons. So they are defenseless. But Kirk, being Kirk, does come up with some solutions here. Well, it actually, Uhura first mentions something, then she mentions it to Spock. Kirk overhears and it's like, oh, okay, I got an idea. Because to hold a starship like the Enterprise still like this with that stasis field, that's very impressive. And Spock does make a comment about how it must be draining a lot of power. And then Uhura mentions, hey, those two robot ships that we were escorting, they're still just going on without us. They're almost out of range. And Kirk's like, what? I have an idea. He sends a signal. I love this solution because it's... I am technical. So the idea of the Klingon ship, it's holding us in a stasis field. This would take a great deal of power. We have two other ships that we can control. Let's summon them to ram the Klingon ship. Why would you do that? Because if they're expending a lot of power to hold us, they're going to have to use more power to do whatever to these two robot ships. And indeed, as they approach, Klingon ship tries to use the projected stasis field to grab onto them. And it's just shortly thereafter, it all collapses because the Klingon ship doesn't have enough power, and then it just needs to get out of there. Well, it does fire a shot at one of the robot ships, only damaging the propulsion, not completely destroying it, which confirms, yes, along with the collapse of the fields, it does confirm they are running low on power, and they have to skedaddle because the Klingon ship cannot handle it. In that state, cannot engage the Enterprise. The Enterprise still has its mission, though, and now Cyrano Jones arrives, and it's like, oh, shit. It's Cyrano Jones, and he's got a bunch of Tribbles with him. Referencing back to the original series episode, it's like, dude, these are illegal. We've had this discussion with you already. He's like, no, it's okay. Because these Tribbles are safe. I had them genetically modified. Well, what's the danger with Tribbles, in case anyone is unfamiliar with the episode? Tribbles are basically furballs that can be in from that big, fitting inside my hand, to that big originally. But the problem is, all they do is eat and reproduce. So when they have too much food is available to them, they will overrun any environment. Because that's all they do, eat and reproduce. There's even a line in the original series episode of Dr. McCoy saying, near as I can tell, they're born pregnant. And so it's it's a significant problem, and there's also mentioned there that they most likely come from a world that has a large number of predators, so their population is constantly kept in check. On the space station in the original episode, and here, they're attracted to the grain, which is a bit of a problem. Now, as I said, Cyrano Jones, he's had them genetically modified so that now they don't reproduce. All they do is eat and get fat. Sort of, but that gets explained a little later. They're now on board the ship, and they move around, they get around. And this is another one of those ways that the animated series had an advantage over the original series. Because in the original series, it was just these furballs that, they probably just were using strings to move them along. Maybe a little bit of a motor or something in there to get them to go, wow, 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 like that. Or they may have had other strings that were just hard to see to pull them up. Or even I could believe they just had holes underneath and someone was just with a stick pushing them up. But otherwise, they were basically just inanimate props. Well, in the animated series, you can actually have them moving around. But yeah, so in theory, they're not going to reproduce. But Cyrano Jones has something else, a glama, which is this spindly leg thing that is a predator for Tribbles. So I was like, oh, okay, but they're still on the ship. They're getting everywhere. The Tribbles are becoming a problem. And because of the damaged robot ship, they actually have to put a whole bunch of the grain on the Enterprise. Yeah, that's not good. Because now you have a massive amount of food for the Tribbles right there. Well, they're continuing on. Eventually, the Klingon ship appears again, and kind of sort of confirming that it's still charging up after the previous encounter. It just uses conventional weapons. It, first... Yeah, I'm trying to remember the exact order. I might have this a little off. No, I think it is just this second encounter where they destroy the propulsion on the other robot ship again. But they also, when engaging the Enterprise, it causes the grain containers to fall over. So now the Tribbles have access to all the food. And this is definitely proving a problem. But they then activate the stasis field, capturing the Enterprise, which is already slowed down because it had all the mass of the grain it had to deal with. And yeah, so... not in good shape, but how did he put it? Oh yeah, because they're in the stasis field, and it's like they can't use their weapons, and Kirk says something, and Spock's about what can we do, and Spock's suggestion is, well, we could throw Tribbles at them, and Kirk just goes, I wasn't aware Vulcans had a sense of humor. We don't. Spock apparently doesn't like the Tribbles anymore, but this actually ends up becoming the solution. Because what they end up doing... because Tribbles don't like Klingons, and Klingons hate Tribbles as well. In the original series episode, I think it is said that the Klingons actually destroyed the homeworld. They've encountered the Tribbles first, recognized the threat. They're to the level of actually being afraid of them, which is kind of silly, but, they... Imagine a cat without claws or teeth that could overrun any environment. That's kind of what a Tribble is. It looks cute. In this case, it cannot harm you, but it is still incredibly devastating. Well, Kirk needs to do something to disable the Klingon ship. His ship is effectively disabled in the stasis field, and it seems like if it's just one ship that the Klingons are trying to hold, it can be indefinite. It doesn't seem that it can use weapons at the same time, but they intend to have a boarding party, just beam over. But Kirk first has the Tribbles beamed over to the Klingon ship, something they would very much not appreciate. We also learned something else, that the brain just turned off again. The Tribbles are not actually getting fat. McCoy has explained that, yeah, whatever Cyrano Jones had done to these things, it's not, they are reproducing, it's just, they're forming, it's a colony inside of the body of the Tribble. So if you, now we can fix that if we just take this chemical, inject it, it will break down the colony, or rather the wall around the colony, so it's all individual Tribbles, but it will also slow down the metabolism, actually making them safe. But the Klingon solution, well, it turns out that Glama thing that Cyrano Jones has, he stole that from the Klingons. And the Klingons actually, they have no interest in Cyrano Jones. They're hunting him. But it's like, yeah, we just want that thing. Because we engineered that in order to kill these things. And it's the first one, it's the only one, we need that to make more. And Kirk's like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll send that right over. It's like, that's fine. But he'd still already sent over the Tribbles, which are massive to the point that Glama can't do anything about them. Tribbles are over there, and when the Klingon commander encounters one that is so large it can't fit through a door, tells the subordinate to shoot it. Yeah, that ends up just releasing the inner colony. So now the Glama can eat, but it's also, they're now filled, they are now surrounded by these Tribbles. Very much reminiscent of, in the original series episode, when the upper cargo bay is opened and just Kirk gets piled, gets a pile surrounding him. I'm just looking to see. Nope. Don't have anything else in my notes. Hopefully I'll get better taking notes as I go. But as I said, I enjoy the episode. I do. It is, I think, the only episode of the animated series I've seen before. And it's probably because, it's Tribbles. When, what anniversary would it have been? I guess 30th, maybe? Might have been 30th anniversary, the 30th anniversary of the original series. Star Trek Deep Space Nine was on. And they decided to do the episode Trials and Tribulations, where they travel back in time and basically are present at I think it was K7? I don't quite remember. But are at the space station where this all takes place in the original series. And it's actually really neat because they managed to merge the Deep Space Nine crew into the old footage and have it make sense. It's actually consistent. It's coherent there. It's really neat. It's also the only time until Enterprise, I believe, that there's any acknowledgement of the change in makeup. So in the original series, the Klingons look human. They just have different hair, including different facial hair. Some of them are also given darker skin than even the actors had. They were just made up. In the Trouble with Tribbles, they actually aren't made up like that. So it is a little odd in that. But in any case, starting with Star Trek the Motion Picture, they then have the heavy Klingon makeup of the foreheads with the ridges on there. Well, in the Deep Space Nine episode, because people are now seeing Klingons as they had been in the original series, it's like, wait, those are Klingons? And Worf, who is a modern Klingon, you might say, they just turn to him and he's like, we don't talk about it. Which personally is perfectly fine with me. I mean, I always see it as the budget increased. It's like, we don't need an in-universe explanation. Just saying we don't talk about it is enough. I don't like that in Enterprise. They tried to give a specific explanation for it. I don't think it was necessary. And hey, maybe if I continue to have fun doing these, I will get there. It'll take a long time because I'd want to go through this TNG. Well, hang on, I can just look. I'm trying to remember how many episodes are in TNG. TNG is 176 episodes. Now, some of those are two-parters that I would do together. Deep Space Nine, and most of the two-parters for Deep Space Nine, I think I don't have combined. Oh no, they are actually. So I'm just looking at my table for this stuff. But in any case, 173 there. Some would be combined, so fewer. Voyager, 168, and then Enterprise at 97. We'll see if I actually go that far. Other things may come up. And it's also, that's going to take a long time if I do these once a week, which... Why don't I finish talking about this episode first before I start talking about that? So, yeah, you've got a lot of things, in my opinion, in this episode to like. You've got a lot of the original cast back doing their own voices. I think, personally, when watching it, what occurred to me, Leonard Nimoy sounded the most natural. Sounded most like Spock again. Whereas Kirk, it was William Shatner doing the voice. But it seemed a bit more obvious that it was a person on a microphone versus an actor on a stage that is being recorded. So it just sounded a little different. Maybe it'll be better later on. But still, you've got the adventure of Star Trek. You've got the fun that Star Trek can offer all in this episode. As I said, I like the technical stuff. It's a projected stasis field. It draws a lot of energy. It's I like that. That's something that... I'm just trying to think what's a good modern example that I can just pull out. I mean, there is that, but I don't want to talk about that. The book I'm currently going through in assigned reading, even though that video is actually already live, there's a science fiction story in there that I did not like. So many technical errors and such that it's like, yeah, not so good, not so good. And it's also like some of the stuff that I hear about with modern Star Trek, which personally I don't count as canon. And not just in a personal way, like, no, I don't count that, but I to me, Star Trek, I know I'm going off, might as well go a little bit further with that. To me, the canon of Star Trek is what I refer to as broadcast Star Trek. So that is the original series through Enterprise and the movies, both the 6 for the original series and the 4 for the Star Trek Generation, Star Trek The Next Generation crew. Those I consider the only canon. Because Star Trek is a TV series, specifically broadcast. It was the thing that I remember, because I grew up in the 90s, watching that as a family. We would try to watch it when it was on, or we'd watch the rerun that would be like the day or two later. We might also record it and watch it, but it's like that was part of the watching experience. I don't count streaming as... Well, streaming might technically be television, but it's not broadcast. It's a different experience entirely. Because, you have... Oh, I set it down over here. It's just... You're hitting this remote. And it's like you can watch whenever, wherever kind of thing, versus this remote, where it's like, well, no, you have to actually choose to plan around watching something at the right time. Plus, there's the whole, you actually have to sell ads for the thing to survive, the thing to make money. So it has to be good, whereas with streaming, you can kind of cheat on that. Because it's like, well, you're getting paid for access, and then you can also get paid for ads, so. But to be fair, the cable model, had advantages there as well. But anyhow, see, I don't count the streaming stuff as Star Trek, which is one reason why I disagree with some people that I'll hear talk about saying that they think Star Trek is now dead because of the likes of Starfleet Academy. I personally don't feel that way, because I do think that if you can come up with a good series and just make sure it's broadcast, have it be syndicated like that, if you could do that, I think that you would find that would work. Like, if you do it well. Do I trust they can do it well? No. I'm saying the hypothetical, you get the right people involved. But you put it on broadcast, you try to meet the standards that the previous shows had to achieve. I think if you did that, you would actually find it would work, and you would be able to revitalize Star Trek. This is not true for something like Star Wars, though, because that is a cinematic franchise. That's a movie franchise. And they made crappy movies, a lot of them. So you can't go to the streaming series for Star Wars, because it's, if you want to fix Star Wars, you have to go to films. That's what it's always been. You want to fix Star Trek, you have to go to broadcast television. That's what it's always been. So it's the deviations from that both have harmed Star Trek, but also, as I said, I think can give the path forward, because you don't need to be you don't need to count the streaming stuff, in my opinion. But that is just me. And I will say this, I am perfectly happy with the idea of it then not being new Star Trek for maybe ever, because I got it. It's all right there. I've got Blu-rays of the original series, Blu-rays of the animated series. This is on Blu-ray. Blu-rays of TNG, DVDs of Deep Space Nine, because that's all they ever did. Well, VHS may have also existed, but the best you can get are the DVDs. DVDs of Voyager, and then the Blu-rays of Enterprise. That's all I need. And I've also got the 10 movies that I had already mentioned. The 6 original cast movies, and then the 4 TNG cast movies. I have those. I'm happy. I don't need more. Just trying to think. Let's do that. Probably should have said this a little bit ago. So, what would I rank this? Well, technically, it's a category for me. I'll explain that too. But I would give this episode just a straight recommendation. And I'll explain that hopefully quickly. Maybe not. We'll see. I mentioned earlier, I've been doing book reviews. Well, chapter by chapter, but I also do write up the reviews as well. I've been doing that for, I think, about a year, maybe a little bit more. Had to take a break because I worked on a backlog. I wasn't always doing the written reviews. But before that, I had about a decade, a little bit more, of doing video game reviews. During that time, one thing, I hate the idea of scores. I really do. Because you're trying to rank something that's subjective by giving a number. And what is that number actually supposed to represent? I actually wrote an article not that long ago and put it up on my Substack. It's called On the Nature of Criticism. But one of the things that I talk about in there is I don't like scores. I prefer just going with recommendations. Do I recommend something? Do I recommend against something? Do I fail to recommend? And the shorthand way to kind of see that is, if I'm recommending something, that's saying I enjoyed it. And I believe others will as well. If I recommend against something, that's saying I think it's a waste of time. If I just fail to recommend, that's to say maybe it was interesting, but I wasn't enjoying it. Like, it didn't necessarily connect with me, but I can't say it's bad. I might say it's poor, but I wouldn't say it's bad. Bad is a, no, that's recommend against. So I had those 3 categories, and then I decided on 3 flavors to it, to each, for a total of 9. And these are just straight, so this is a straight recommendation. Strong, so something that I would strongly recommend is saying that, hey, I really think you need to watch this. This is great. You gotta watch it. Or you gotta read it. You gotta play it. Something like that. And then weak recommendation, where it's, weak. So weak recommendation would be, it has problems, but it's still pretty good. I enjoyed it. I was happy. So that's how that is. And they are reflected with recommend against. So there's strong recommend against, straight recommend against, and weak recommend against. And then for failure to recommend or fail to recommend, I use both languages, use both terms. There is negatively flavored, so that's towards recommend against. There's positively flavored, so that's biased towards recommending, and just straight failure to recommend. Straight failure to recommend. There we go. Sometimes the speech impediment is more obvious than other times. Anyway. And just to help clarify how that works. Well, okay. These are categories. They're not scores. Let me be clear on that. They're categories. So the way in that article I mentioned, I even put it is, if in theory, if you're using scores, if you run into something that you think is a 10, the next day, the next week, month, year, you might encounter something new that you also feel is a 10. Well, but is that a new 10 such that the old 10 is pushed down? It's like that's your problem that you run into with scores. For me, though, with these categories, it's like, no, if they would both be something that I recommend or strongly recommend, then I just have another thing to recommend or strongly recommend. So I see it as a bit advantageous there. But what else I've done is I have given these categories, all 9 of them, numbers. It's just a label, though. It does technically have a logic to it, like a score system does, but it's more so just its shorthand. So straight recommend is a 3. That may seem odd. Why is it a 3? Because I have it centered on 0. So straight failure to recommend is 0. Positively flavored recommend, fail to recommend is 1. Weak recommendation is 2. Straight recommend 3. Strong recommend is 4. And then going to the negative, so for going towards recommend against. So that way, the more positive the label, if we take it as a number, the stronger the recommendation. And this I give a 3. That is what straight recommendation is. Now let me be clear. Again, these are just labels on a category. There would never be a 3.5 or 2.5 or anything like that. It's just shorthand for straight recommend. If somebody wants to argue that doesn't sound all that different from scores, I mean, it's different because it's buckets, not a scale. So I guess a way to help put it is I could have 2 things that are both straight recommendations, where it might be, yeah, this one is exceedingly well written. If I use a book, I went to that one instead of like a television episode. But it's like, if I say, yeah, this is really good and I very much enjoyed it, it's not strongly recommend, but I do recommend it. I could also have something where it's like, yeah, it has problems too, but it's a lot of fun. It's very enjoyable, really connect with it. But it's like, it technically can be a lower quality work. So the score would be lower, even though it would get the same recommendation. So it is different in that way, because it's more about, did I enjoy it? Would I recommend this? Would I fail to recommend it? Would I recommend against it? Which is a bit better than, I do believe it's a better system than trying to apply something as objective as a number, as a score, onto something that it's fundamentally subjective. I guess you could even say, I'm just giving up. I'm trying to be objective there. These are subjective categories. I put these labels on here to be better, to be easier to understand. So yeah, this one gets a 3. And I should really stop talking, especially because I've not been feeling that well today, and I want to get to bed. So next week, likely, should explain that. I said I would earlier, and then I forgot. Will be the Infinite Vulcan, which is the 2nd episode produced, but was aired as the 7th episode in season 1. So yeah, as I said, they jump around a lot here. Let me actually see if I can do this. Okay, select that. Allow. Is this going to work? There we go. So yeah, that's the table here of it. Okay, let me hide some stuff. I don't need that one. I think the rest I actually do. Well, yeah. So there's my 3. We can drop the air date as well, but you can see the title here is the star dates. But yeah, so it's sorted by production order. So we got More Trouble, More Tribbles, Infinite Vulcan, Yesteryear, so that was 2nd episode, and then Beyond the Farthest Star, that was 1st episode aired. And we can do that, and you can see, 4, 3, 7, 6, 1, just the weird ordering that they have here, that they end up going with. It's like even in season 2, which was only 6 episodes long, it's still 19, 17, 20, 18, 21, 22. So yeah, fun stuff. All right, and let me do that now. Is this gonna? How do I get myself back? Hang on. There we go. Okay, that's odd. Okay, let me do that. Maybe that would have helped. I should also mention, so this background image behind me, it should be, I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah, I'll just do this really quickly. It should be in the description. A link to it should be in the description. I like using like NASA images. Yes, this is it. Because the fun thing about images from Hubble, this should be the James Webb Telescope though. Actually, wait. Yeah, it definitely is. There's a way you can tell at a glance if it's Hubble or James Webb Telescope. So the James Webb Telescope has a bunch of small mirrors that can actually all be articulated, but they're hexagons. That means then that, see here, how the light is going out like that, how the bloom is, that's only going to happen with a hexagonal mirror there, so you can know this is James Webb. Whereas with Hubble, trying to remember actually how that is. It is a different effect. It's not 6. I'm looking at some of the others I have here. Okay, that's probably right. So I should be able to pull that up then. I just want to, yes, okay. So for Hubble, which if I Hubble, that's the effect it has. I don't remember the name for what that visual distortion is. That might be bokeh. I'm not sure though. I don't remember, and I want to get to bed. But no, the image behind me. I'll do that. That is of protoplanetary disks in NGC 346, taken with the NearCam imager on the James Webb Telescope. As I said, the link to it, let me just open up, because I had the tab for YouTube open earlier. Just open that up again. I just want to confirm. Yes, so the link, if you want to see more information about it, is in the description there and should also be in Rumble. Because I actually set this all up through Rumble. So if YouTube has it, Rumble has it too, because did it from there. So yeah, this has probably been a rambling and worthless stream, but I don't know. First time I've tried doing this. I'm having some fun. It gives me reason to watch through the animated series, and it's kind of enough. Kind of enough for me. So oh yes, I guess I will see you next time, but I should also say that I'll do it this week because I'm not feeling that well. I'm not sure when I will feel better. I will try to keep a regular schedule of this. Sorry. Of Saturday at 9, because that gives me enough time to watch an episode beforehand. My day can sometimes be filled up until about 8, so if I get to TNG, those are typically hour-longs, gives me time. However, there might be days when I'll feel like, you know what, it's Tuesday. I feel like watching an episode of Star Trek. I don't feel like waiting until Saturday. So I might then do that and just start a stream randomly during the week. I know that's not necessarily good form because streams should be scheduled. And just schedules in general are a good thing. I was very proud of the fact that I had one channel where I went for years with, first it was a 2 video a week, then a 3 video a week schedule. I was very happy with that. No one ever watched, but still, I was very happy that I maintained that. But I'll be honest, I do figure that even if this ever does get watched, some people would watch it live streamed. Plenty of people might, if they decided to watch it, would watch the archive, the thing that's saved on YouTube and Rumble. So yeah, in that case, then if I just do whenever, it won't be a problem. Yeah, maybe not the best plan, but it still is a, you know, I don't want to have to wait to watch Star Trek. I like Star Trek. That's why I'm doing this. But I can say I like Star Trek because I do. I really like the franchise. I like the IP. But that doesn't mean that every episode is good. And that's another reason to do this because, and I do try to argue this, not as pointedly, but in that article on the nature of criticism, which again, there's a link to my Substack, and it is one of the pinned things, although you might need to look at, under assigned reading, it would definitely be pinned up on that last I looked. Let me actually confirm that. Oh, well, yeah, it's just like the banner thing on the nature of criticism. Then it says introduction because it starts with the title for that subsection. But it does also, assigned reading does have that. Well, actually, wait, that's his latest. It is pinned, but maybe it is also going to be there. But assigned reading is where you find the written reviews for the. Did I really do that? I guess I did. I just realized I misnamed something, but easy enough to fix. There we go. Yeah, just update. Okay, but one point that I do make there, and I'll make here again because I don't know when to shut up. It is a problem. I know. Is that when it is something that you love, whatever it is, if it's Star Trek, Star Wars, Stargate, if it's Lord of the Rings, because I've actually been seeing some arguments about that of late, you need to be the one to talk about it. You need to be the one who criticizes it even. Like, if this bad episode of, for me, Star Trek, I need to be able to say that, yeah, it's a bad episode. Here's why. Because the last thing you want, and I do think that this is, it kind of goes in line with gatekeeping. You want to be if you love it, if that is something that you're truly a fan of, a sincere fan of something, you should be the one criticizing it. Don't surrender that to somebody else who may not care, who might even hate it. So, you know, like with some of the reviews with some of the Marvel stuff, the modern Star Trek, the new Trek content, some of the like Rings of Power, where there are people saying that, oh yes, this is great, this is wonderful, but to sincere fans, it's like, no, it's not. It's garbage. It completely betrays what the original idea was, and so on and so forth. That's why you don't want to surrender the criticism to people like that, who say that, oh, this is wonderful, this is great, because we're doing all this stuff. It's like, no, you're not. You're destroying the thing. So yeah, you need to not surrender it. Don't surrender our culture. But that does also mean, yeah, even if there's, like Star Trek V, that movie, it's not that good. We need to be the ones saying that as well. Yeah, so it is, I wish I could, I'm better at writing than I am at talking, fortunately. But yeah, that is also part of the reason why I want to do this. Is just, because if I'm not criticizing it, in theory, and I do care about Star Trek, theory that, as I said, that means I'm surrendering it to somebody else to criticize it. Somebody else gets to decide the conversation then. And then I have to answer to them. It's like, no. I care about this. So I should be talking about it. And maybe there's something like that in your life. Hey, cameras are cheap. I'm using a nice camera. I'm using a nice microphone, but this is a laptop. I've got camera here, microphone here. I mean, it's Rumble account's free. YouTube account is free. Go and do. And these images, they're public domain. So if you want to use something like that as background, you're good. But you do want to make sure. It's like, this is, the fact that I give the link also helps. But technically it's public domain. I can do whatever I want. However, if you do look at James Webb Telescope site and Hubble websites, there is actually two, because there's NASA and there's ESA, European Space Agency. The Spitzer Space Telescope, Chandra, all those. They will also have artist renditions. Those are actually copyrighted. They're being used, but under license by NASA, ESA. So you don't use those. Make sure that's actually that. And just, you know, the license, you can view the license, view the copyright information on those websites to make sure you get that information. Yeah, you can do that. And also, I'm just using OBS for this as well, which that's free software. It's open source as well. So, I mean, if you got something you care about and you want to talk about it, it's one of the easiest times to do it. Go do it so that you know you're the one talking about it. You're not letting other people just talk about it. It's your opinion that's being shared. And hey, if you want to do it in video, as I said, easy enough to do that. Basically, everyone has. I'm not sure how well a phone camera would necessarily work. I like using the larger stuff, like, you know, it's, the camera in this webcam is larger than any of the cameras in that phone, and should be of higher quality. The microphone is certainly larger. Here, can I actually get that to? I mean, well, here you can see, because it's that's how much larger that, well, the microphone body is. Inside, it's a ½ inch. It's 1/4 inch or ½ inch. I don't remember, but that's if this is all you got, it works. But go and do. But you can also, you know, do it in writing and such. It's like, don't surrender your culture. Really don't. All right. I think I'll actually stop talking now and get to bed. Like I said, I've been wanting to because I'm sick, but I don't know when to shut up. It's a problem. Hopefully it gets better. We'll find out next time.